What is going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the show we teach you to make massive income, not just passive income with your real estate investing business. This is your first time here on these Wednesday Mike and Dan shows. You are joined by myself, Mike DeHaan, and my co-host here, Dan Austin, while we talk about real estate investing, business, and whatever else we feel like. I think it's funny that we call this the Mike and Dan show now, when like for the first year, it was only like the Mike and Dan show every week for like a while.
I know, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is kind of funny. What did we call it before? Just the show?
Well, I guess. I mean, we started adding
Collecting Keys.
We started adding interviews like a year into this, which we do on Mondays now. Like we just had, I guess, Craig Curelop on week that we're recording this, but we're a week behind, so I don't know what's coming out next week. I'll talk to our producer. But we did interviews, then we added the Friday Focus episodes because, you know, when it comes to podcast and audio content, the thing is the platforms promote people that get a lot of downloads and a lot of listeners. And if you have more episodes, you get more downloads and listeners just by math. So that's why people release a lot of episodes every single week. But so we were the Mike and Dan show for a while. But I also feel like at that point in time, it was easier just to do that as the sole show because we were more in the weeds on our business and we hadn't grown to kind of our national enterprise yet, where we have a big team. We're not necessarily out walking houses ourselves anymore. Like I say not necessarily, I mean literally never. And we are more like business owners these days, whereas back then we were traditional real estate guys.
Well, and I think before too, like because we were kind of just doing the operator thing, like most of our stories and things were around walking properties. And now it's the Mike and Dan show. We talk a lot more about business and strategy and how to scale and those sorts of things. Because ultimately, everybody that gets into this business wants to do it for a reason, one reason or the other, and that is to scale some level of income, whether that's to add an income stream, more passive income through acquisition of rental properties. But what we found to do that shit is you got to get to scale, then you got to systematize it. And so that's just where our interests have been.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that everyone kind of goes through the same process in this business where they start out, they don't believe it's going to work. They hustle and grind. They get their first couple deals done, make one or two decent checks. And then they're like, I want to do more of that. So they double down on their own systems without thinking around, I guess, or double down on their own like marketing and process without thinking about their own opportunity cost or how to actually systematize it or how to bring on staff. And so many people, you know, that we talk to through social media or that we work with in the scale community, they have gotten to this position where they're making money. They just don't want to be working 100 hours a week to do it. And they also don't want to have this phase that everyone in real estate tends to fall into, where 1 month they make 50 grand and then they don't know where their money's going to come from over the next quarter, which all of a sudden, if you do that for like an entire year, you realize you worked really hard and you didn't actually net that much at the end of it. So what was the point?
Yeah. I'm thinking as you're talking, like there's two big phases when you start out in this business before you get to like maturity or some level of maturity. The first phase is you're like committed and you're marketing and you don't have a lot of leads. So you're not sure what to do with your time. Maybe you're working a day job, so that's filling your time, or maybe you're doing something else that's filling your time. But like you have all this like freedom because there's nothing there yet. And you might do a deal here, do a deal there, but you don't have like this consistent lead flow. Then you graduate to the phase where you kind of figured it out and you've got enough months of marketing. Maybe you're like at 6 to 12 months, somewhere in there in that phase where you've marketed for a while. You have leads you should be following up with. You have your commitment to spending a certain amount of money every month on marketing. And now you're there, but you're at what you just said, like you're working 100 hours a week because you feel like if you get off that hamster wheel, the money machine will stop printing money, and it will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say that's probably one of the most like mentally challenging parts of, I don't know, I'd say like everyone's financial journey is you're now spoiled from the traditional W-2 mindset that most people have. You understand that there's this opportunity there where you could make a lot of money, you could reach financial freedom, and all of a sudden just trading your time for money at a W-2 doesn't make sense anymore, but you still don't quite know how to do it consistently. And for some people, they're in that for years. Other people, it can be like decades, depending on how long it takes them to learn how to do the process. And it's almost like torturous, right? And I think that that's where, you know, the old sort of adage that like entrepreneurs will work for 80 hours to avoid working 40. That is exactly why that exists, because also there's no guarantee you're ever going to get out of that either.
Yeah.
And if you're not intelligent about it. But I think the good thing about modern times is, with the existence of people like Alex Hormozy and like also this YouTube channels, you can
Mike
get
and
free
Dan.
content. And I was going to say, the Collecting Keys podcast, with Mike and Dan, you can actually like learn for free how to do these things, because if you went back to like the 90s, everyone, if you wanted to get into business, you'd go and get an MBA, you rack up some more debt, and you'd go and get taught by some professor how to do business, even though he's never done a business himself. So what really is he going to teach you?
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, I would say too, like back then, like the information wasn't readily available to do this business. Like real estate, I think one of the reasons why real estate was kind of done only by a few people in the 90s is just because the dissemination of information education wasn't there. Now it's so, because it's nothing's inherently hard. Yeah. It's just at this point with the tools available to us, and now like all the YouTube content and all the people teaching it to use those tools properly to optimize them, it's so much easier, right? I mean, think about like getting the list back in 92. Like, who are you going to even market to get that list was a huge lift. You had to know a few secrets just to get that, which weren't available online because there wasn't a website to go to.
Dude, think about getting the list in like 2018. Like,
yeah,
like
shit.
even back
seriously.
when we started, like PropStream, which is what we get a lot of our lists from right now, was kind of new, and like it was like a little bit janky, and it wasn't super reliable. So we have to spend a lot of time spot checking stuff. Yeah. I mean, I remember talking to a friend of mine who had the opportunity to buy PropStream for like $1 million, and this is back like not that long ago, 6 or 7 years ago, and they were like, "No, this is a shitty platform.
It's trash."
So then PropStream grew, and they ended up selling to a different company for like $100 million. 5 years later, whatever it was, they sold a couple years.
That's
ago.
crazy.
But
that's crazy.
Like things change so fast, and that's just the nature of business and technology. And as we continue to, get more sophisticated players enter the real estate space, specifically the off-market real estate space, that's going to become more prevalent. And it's important to kind of know what's happening, find out what works for you. And I would say most importantly, not get caught up in all of the bullshit and things that people try to sell you, because they acknowledge that everyone's trying to find the next best thing, because honestly, most of it is bullshit. And
you know what this reminds me of? I'm going to give you a straight up awesome analogy. Is in a lot of these gyms and like these women specific workouts, absolutely, I've seen some pretty awesome ones. The one I love, but is not my favorite so far. The one I love is where they wear these like bouncy shoes and they dance around and do aerobics together, but they're like these shoes with like leaf springs underneath them and they can jump really high. And the newest one I saw was women, they attach to the bungee cords and they dance around. So it takes like the weight of their body and puts it into a bungee cord. That is the equivalent, the gym, the fitness equivalent of some of the shit out there of people teaching you this AI, blah, blah, blah crap, or this new tool that's going to get you more leads. It's like likely not.
We should turn that into like a social media post, because I've seen like those that you're talking about, and the meme usually on it is like, or like the verbiage on it is usually that Gen X women will do anything except lift a weight, right? And but so I feel like we could probably do the real estate version of like, millennial or like Gen Z real estate investors will do anything except call a lead. Because
that's so, honestly, there you go. That is it. That's so true. Because like, that's what it comes down to. Like, we get a lot of questions around this of like, what is the secret sauce, or like, will this work? Because there's a ton of stuff online, and I'm always surprised people will be like, even in the scale group will be like, has anybody heard about this? And I'm like, I have not, never even seen it before online. But for whatever reason, because they're doing probably a lot of Google searching of like how to do things, like they're going to get targeted with certain stuff, that makes total sense. But yeah, like some of this stuff, it's like, dude, just pick up the phone and call people. And if you call enough people, if you talk to enough of these people, eventually somebody will raise their hand and say, I want to have a conversation with you about selling my property.
Yeah.
And then you can have that conversation.
Yeah. And once you have the leads, keep calling them. You don't just like call them one time and you're done.
Yeah.
Right. Like we actually had this conversation on our group coaching call today, where a guy was like, we do his lead generation for him through our Simply Leads company. And he's like, yeah, so I get these cold call leads that come in, I like do my research on them. And then by the time I call them like 5 days later, like they don't really remember talking to the caller. I'm like, well, the problem is you should be calling them the same day. Even if you're going to do your due diligence, that's fine. Just immediately establish that relationship and let them know what's going to happen over the next couple of days before you can make an offer. You don't need to go into it fully educated. It's a people business. You should be talking to people all the time.
It's 100% of people business on every front of the business, right? And two of the things that I've probably, if I could take anything away from Alex Hormozi, not to overquote him on this podcast, but I do think he's has a lot of good wisdom, is it's very unreasonable to think you'll be good at something when you start out. So if it's hard, it should be freaking hard. Like you've never done it before. So when you pick up the phone to cold call somebody, or you've got a mail lead that came in and you're like, well, I got to call this person and follow up with them after I gave them a lowball offer. Like that is hard and you're not going to be good at, but you have to do it to get better at it. And then the second thing that I kind of just take from what he said is what you're doing in business, like you're going to need to do a lot more of it, a lot more than you think you should need to do, right? Like you can't just send one batch of mail, do one round of cold calls and think that's going to get you to be a millionaire real estate investor. Like whatever you think you need to do to grow to the business to where you want, times that probably by 100.
Yeah. And I mean, I also say too, you have to be doing those things with intention, because if you're just like putting in reps with no intention around it, you're not going to get better. And I think that's the next phase where people tend to get stuck, is they're like, man, I'm making, 100 calls a week and I still suck at it. It's like, well, how often are you learning about how to do better? How often are you analyze how you botched that conversation and being brutally honest with yourself about what you need to do differently next time? If you're not willing to do that yourself, then find a buddy or join a group, right? That's honestly the big reason that like we are big on programs and like we started Scale, and we were very active in the group that we started in years ago, is because that accountability forces you to like recognize your own weaknesses and make adjustments to them, because if you don't, you'll just keep spinning your wheels, and that's the unfortunate truth with it.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So anyways, it's that early phase of business is always tough, but the great thing is, as business has become more sophisticated, even though it's more competitive now and there's all these different things that kind of distract you, it is easier to not have to do like a lot of like the really crappy things in business, right? Or like to be able to outsource them, because not only are you more educated as an entrepreneur, but you can find like virtual assistants that are more educated. You can find other people that are very easy to network with due to the internet that can help you learn. You can find softwares and systems that come with like automations that do a lot of the things that you need to do in your business. And then here's the other thing too, is there's this old antiquated view about how you need to build this stuff that's really custom. Like I heard that I was talking to this guy on Instagram who's in Josh and Tiffany High's group, whatever it's called. And this like pissed me off to the core, that he said one of the biggest things they do is when you join their community is they convince people to buy this $3,000 Podio setup, right? In order to be able to nurture the leads the way that they teach you to do it. That is the most horseshit thing that I have ever heard. There is no reason.
That's snake oil, dude.
Absolutely. Like that is the taking advantage of ignorant real estate people that are separate from technology to the max, because Podio is not that complicated. You can build it out yourself however you want. B, there are so many off the shelf products that can take you to multi-millions of dollars of revenue, but will cost you a couple $100 a month, maybe.
Let's theorize this. What could a Podio setup could do? We use RE Simply. That's the one we've used for a long time. What could a $3,000 Podio build out do for you that you couldn't do in another system like RE Simply?
I can't even begin to imagine what they're sort of pitching on it that's so important, right? Like, is it about having live transfers? Well, RE Simply does that, right? Is it being able to categorize leads the appropriate way? Is it being able to do drip campaigns, automated
I was going to say, let me guess, it's drip campaigns, which you and I have proven are a waste of time in this business.
You know what they probably do? They probably have some integration that uses like quote unquote AI or some bullshit, and that's why it costs $3,000. Yeah. And then I was talking to him more, asking him certain basic questions, and he started to open up to me a little bit, and he was like, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they also break it occasionally, so that way you have to go and hire their overseas developer for way too much money to come in and like fix it for you. I'm just like, dude, like it's like a racket. Like, don't ever buy into stuff like that. Like, there almost anything that you need in this business can be done with like a base level software at this point to get up to the point where you're making seven figures, like multi-seven figures, honestly.
There's no real shortcut to it. There really isn't. Like, there's no Podio software setup. There's no drip campaign that's better. There's no cold calling script that's that much better. Like, there's just nothing that's better than just putting in the legwork, following the steps consistently over and over again, and just calling people, talking to people, showing up to appointments, consistently marketing. It's just basics. It's just basic business.
Yeah. And, you know, literally all we do, this is what I always tell people on other shows that I'm on, is we just do like jump shot and bounce pass basketball, right? It's the most like plain Jane business. We pull all of the macro and micro lists that you can learn about on YouTube from PopStream. We mail them at a mass level that's targeted based off the people that are most likely to want to sell at a discount. And then we take the larger list, like the rest of the people that are less motivated, and we put them with our cold calling and SMS company, and we market to them at volume. And we do that repeatedly, month after month after month after month. And lo and behold, you do that with enough volume, you close a lot of deals. Like, it's really not.
Well, and the key is once we start, we don't stop.
Correct.
And that's where I think people get caught up. They try to get cute. They try to get like tricky and like, well, what if I stop mailing this list and put that money over here? Maybe I'll make more money. It's like, no, you're already building a flywheel. You're already building a snowball over here. Just keep going. Don't stop. Don't say, hey, I'm a little stretched thin on money because I got a flip going and my rental property's vacant. Like, no, like all that stuff is secondary to your marketing machine, because that snowball, once you stop, it starts shrinking, it starts melting right away. You got to keep it going, because you and I, like, we've seen this too many times. People do that. They stop. Oh, it's just for a month. Well, guess what? You just literally stopped all your momentum, and now you got to start back up. And it's a lot harder to start back up to get going, especially because you got to spend money and you're just, it's a losing battle at that point.
Yeah. And it's important to be monitoring for results so you can see if there's any trends that happen over a long period of time in a negative direction, right? I think another issue is a lot of people look at things month by month, which isn't really a good indicator of success with your marketing. So we look like quarter by quarter. And well, you know, on a month by month basis, your cost per lead or cost per deal can double. But if over like a 6-month span, it averages out to what you expect, then you're good. Right. And if it's sort of like trending up at the end of the 6 months, watch it for the next couple of months to be able to make decisions. And then you make changes from there. But the changes that you make should be minor. You shouldn't be like reinventing the whole thing. So for example, we recently just made a change with our direct mail sequence. So we have a 6-month direct mail sequence that we run, that we've been running for a couple of years now. And we started to notice that by the 6th month, things were starting to increase a lot. In terms of our cost per lead and our cost per deal was almost doubling from the previous few months. And that was a reoccurring thing that happened in several markets. And so we said, well, let's try something different for that and see what it looks like. And so we basically introduced a new type of mail. We're doing these kind of branded postcards, which we haven't done for a long time, which are very brand heavy, and they have specific call to action. They're going to appeal to a different audience. We can reach out to a lot more people with that. And we're going to monitor that for the next few phases and see how that brings down our cost per lead, or if it affects it, if it goes up maybe. And then we'll make another adjustment from there. But one of the problems, I think, when you're new is making a change like that feels risky, because you don't have proof of concept yet. Right. You don't have like any sort of reserves or backup in your pipeline. But that's also why it's important to be doing things consistently, and to not only on the marketing side, but the sales side, because then you know that worst case scenario, your lead flow goes down, but at least you can be calling all the leads that you've already paid for and already generated to be able to produce revenue.
Totally. Yeah. And marketing is one of those things. It's like a business asset. And now that we do marketing, not just for real estate assets, for our businesses, different, our partnership program, our calling company, the different kind of businesses you and I run, it goes back to that. Ooh, it does feel risky because we've never done this before. And, you know, we've spent money on marketing over the years. And now it's getting to the point to where it's like every single company in the capitalist economy that we call America would not be doing marketing if it didn't work. They would not be marketing on social media. They would not be doing all these different types of marketing and KPIs, all that stuff, if it didn't work. So at some level, the thousands of wholesalers out there wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work, when you take it all the way back down to the wholesale operation. So it's like, it does feel scary, it does feel risky, but if you do it, like, it will work. The flywheel does spin. I don't know what else to tell you. It will work, but if you don't put in the work, it won't. It won't do anything for you.
And it's going to be really uncomfortable. You're not really going to know what to do sometimes. You're going to be trying to figure out. And, you know, like you said before, Dan, that's what hard feels like. Congratulations. I thought it was going to be easy.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't sell yourself short when it starts getting hard. Everybody has like the thought of fear, like, oh, I fucked up. Like, this is not who I am. I can't do this. Like, people that are worth $100 million have that same conversation in their head when they wake up in the morning. they still question themselves. But the difference is they've grown a skill to say, you know what, I know that I can do this. History has told me I can do this. History has told me that I'm a different person than the slob sitting over there, not doing shit, but going to work every single day, collecting a paycheck, right? You've chosen this path. You've done a ton of legwork to get to this point, to start an off-market real estate business. You're different. So now when it gets hard, you just got to tell yourself the voice in your head has to be like, I can do this. I'm going to get one little bit better every single day when I pick up the phone and do my follow-up. It's a mindset thing. Totally. I just say that because there's not a lot of difference between me and you and then the folks that we coach in the scale community or the other people out there that are doing this business, except for we've seasoned that little mindset thing in our brain of like, I can do this. I can do this, over and over again.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue to announce the Collecting Keys affirmation journal with the mirror on the front.
Yes.
Start shouting
at. Yes.
We should actually, I don't know when we made that joke, like 6 months ago. I feel like we should pursue that now. I feel like that's hilarious.
We will. We just got to get one of our team members to just make it. It's not hard.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
It's not.
We'll have Ramon. Hey, Ramon, go and make this for us. Get it all set up on our website with Daniel, and we'll start selling them. Maybe we should just pre-sell them.
Pre-sell them. There you go. The Kickstarter.
For proof of concept. Mm-hmm. If you guys want it, if there's enough people, we'll make it.
The problem is people actually have to listen to this show first, and that's the first hurdle.
Ooh. Yeah. If you know somebody that could benefit from this show, please share it to them, and we will send you a free Collecting Keys life affirmation planner. What are we calling it? Life lap?
Yeah, with a self-motivating mirror on the front.
Yeah.
Is that does that have some kind of
it's an AI journal. It's an AI journal with a self-motivating mirror in it. So you actually don't have to do any work. It's got ChatGPT built into it.
Yeah.
It's pretty slick.
Yeah, as AI, it is run by asshole intelligence, you dick. Figure it out.
AIDS.
Yeah, no, stupid. That was
good shit.
Joke.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, aside from that, I mean, we got deals closing finally. We've had tons of delays. We're finally getting stuff moving. I think we had 5 over the last couple of days that have all closed, and then we have 5 or 6 more over the next few days. So I'm really excited to get things rounded out here because it gets a while where like the transaction process where every single one is just facing issues. I mean, it's part of the game, but it's always a frustrating thing. And we finally have one of these wrap deals that we've been trying to do for a while closing that according to people on the internet is a very simple thing allegedly, but we had a hiccup for the last little bit over something that who would have thought, the frickin' insurance. Right.
Insurance is always a thing.
Which according to the episode with Pace on was it Tribe of Millionaires, it's like, oh, you just use like our insurance company. That's not a real thing. Like it's literally not.
No.
And you talk to any insurance company, they're like, you can't do what he's saying.
Yeah.
No. And so we've had to kind of figure out a strategy here to make it legal and legit so that we don't, leave the buyer out high and dry or ourselves because we're going to have a additional loan on this thing or get in trouble from the lender for not carrying insurance and have them call the loan.
Yep.
But
here's the trick. Here's the trick. And I was going to do a Friday focus, like a case study on this one. The thing with insurance to highlight why any of the creative finance stuff where you're leaving a mortgage in place, the reason why it's critical is that the bank has a due on sale clause, meaning that if you sell the property and legally no longer hold title, they can call the loan due. They may call the loan due. And you want to do things without them finding out. Is it illegal? I don't believe it's illegal anywhere to sell a property and not tell the bank. I don't think so. But don't quote me on that because I don't know the laws. But
I think
I'm not going to just make bold faced lies, because there is such thing called mortgage fraud and all that stuff. I have no idea, so don't quote me on this. But you don't want them to find out. And so the insurance is an interesting one. So a lot of people are like, oh, you just need to get the buyer needs an insurance policy. The challenge with this is the buyer gets an insurance policy and then you leave your insurance policy in place with the lender listed as the insured. So this buyer, say, owns the house for 5 years and you have a 5-year balloon, nothing happens, good to go. The loan gets paid off at a refinance or they sell the property. Cool. And you don't want the due on sale clause in that time period. So you keep your policy in place and have theirs. The problem is in that 5-year period, something happens, like the house burns down. You are basically still owe the loan and he has an insurance policy that doesn't have a lender on it, who they have you as the lender listed on it for just the equity piece. You can do that. You can't just arbitrarily throw that lender on there, because then that lender is going to get notified that somebody new is on the policy. Mm-hmm. So what Pace pitches usually in these cases, and he says it's because most investors are idiots and they don't know how to do this. So we use a specific insurance company that essentially will put the buyer's insurance in place and keep yours in place. And then in a week after that, cancel your policy. So then nobody's the wiser. It's like, that doesn't fix shit, actually. It's just another way to pitch a company that he may be affiliated with. However, what you can do, which there's still the risk of due on sale, and what we're doing, so our insurance company would not just add the buyer to our policy. They said, no. If he has title, we will not insure anybody on the property that doesn't hold title. Mm-hmm. So he holds title. So his name goes on the insurance policy. And then we are listed as an additionally insured person. And then the lender is listed as the lender. So meaning if the house burns down, he skips town, we are still covered as additionally insured because we still personally guarantee that mortgage. Mm-hmm. So then we can pay the mortgage off, or the mortgage company can get paid off. The lender can get paid off in the event that the house doesn't get rebuilt. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing here. You're trying to avoid a due on sale trigger and make sure that the house is safe during an insurance claim. And two policies will not do that, because the insurance companies will not do that. Your insurance policy with you not on title will not. No, the insurance company's like, fuck you, I'm not paying that. You don't even own the house. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for paying me $100 a month for the last 60 months.
Yeah, and see, that the big problem too with that whole situation, and I think what they do on do that SubTo insurance company, whatever it is now you're hoping that the lender doesn't find out about the change of title. You're also hoping the insurance company doesn't find out. But the thing is that when there is a problem, they will find out, and then everyone's going to be left high and dry, and you're all going to be completely fucked when somebody goes and burns the house down, which, across all the people doing these kind of things will eventually happen, has probably already happened several times. And if you know anyone that has bought or sold a SubTo property that has then had an insurance claim and had issues with it, or if they haven't, if they figured it out, please let me know. I would love to hear more about it, because
I would love it.
So like the stuff that I sold SubTo, how we did it, we actually had the buyer basically take a power of attorney over me to be able to claim those funds on behalf of me for the property. But I guess that's not the way you're supposed to do it. But that was what the attorney that we worked with told us to do it. And it makes sense, I guess, logically. The only risk is right now is that if I die, as we have learned, the power of attorney is no longer a valid document. They go away. This is admittedly a risk that is out there for the buyer at this point. I don't really think it makes sense for us to be kind of rocking the boat. Just hopefully I don't die in the next few years.
Right.
I guess we'll figure that out.
Absolutely. Well, and if you do die, he just needs to get his own insurance on it, which he should be able to. It's still just the risk of him triggering the due on sale. He can still get insurance, right? It's just the risk, because what happens when you get insurance on a property is the lender always requests to have an updated insurance binder. So when your insurance policy expires, they get your insurance provider provides them with a new, hey, this is the policy from January 1 till December 31st this year. And so when your buyer gets a new policy, the lender is going to be like, hey, where's my when your existing policy comes due, the lender's gonna be like, you don't have insurance on this property. And the buyer's gonna be like, oh yes, I do. They're gonna be like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, right.
You're not Mike.
Yeah. And as a result, it's not like, oh, well, we promise we do, give the insurance on the property. They just go, no, cool. We're off the hook. Thanks for all the premiums you've been paying, but we are out. See you later.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And it complicated just one step further, because Pace Morby did a video on this, was, this happens sometimes, once in a while. And he did a video of him signing documents, which he was probably just signing shit with color crayons. But he was signing a document basically saying, well, they just deed it back to me and then we'll get it all resolved, or I'll deed it back to the seller. We'll get it all resolved. And then we'll just do another deed back to me basically quickly. So that, because the lender company won't, they're too stupid to figure that out, right? They found it once, but they won't find it twice. But dude, in some states like Washington, there's excise tax. So on both sides of that trend, if that actually worked, that's a 4% of the sale cost. Now that the seller you bought it from, and you have to figure that out. That could be like on a $400,000 house transfer. The state of Washington wants their excise tax.
Just do a quick claim, dude. Just go down there to the county office and report it yourself. You just don't need to pay excise tax. That's what chumps do.
Yeah,
don't need money
that's
or
what
credit
idiots
to do.
Don't know how to do. That's what my haters that don't know how to do SubTo the right way would do.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna deflect everything by trying to show people a fun experience by taking them on helicopters and stuff, because I know that my time is narrowly, like, it's whittling away very, very quickly. Anyways.
Anyhow.
So we got that closing out, though, which I'm excited for. And I do feel like we have done it the correct way. And actually, I will say that the big benefit that we've had is we found this buyer from that community, that group. And so we've had these back and forths with the attorneys, and we've had some of these, I would say, like, questions. But because he's in the same boat and been like, this doesn't fucking make any sense, he's been very communicative and very open to also learning about how it's been done, and very supportive about doing it the correct way. And it's been mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a different story if it was a situation we were like buying it from a crackhead or something. Like, it just doesn't, it wouldn't be feasible at all.
It wouldn't be feasible. And if you were selling it to somebody that was just, you were trying to sell to a retail buyer this way, I should not just retail buyer, but just anybody that's ignorant. And like, we've tried that before. And guess what? The dude walked out, not on this particular property. The dude walked out on closing day. He signed half the documents and got through it. And it was like, nope, I'm not doing it.
That was fun.
Like,
what a waste of time.
That was fun. Right. Like, great.
The closing attorney is like, well, we still want our money. And we're like, well, I guess you're not wrong. God damn it.
That was another 3 months of battling this guy, because he had his whole down payment at the lawyer's office, like $30,000. And he's like, I want my money back. I was like, I don't control that, dude. You walked out. You had all the loan documents to review. You knew exactly what we were doing. And so we had to negotiate with him to have him pay at least half the lawyer costs.
What a nightmare.
What a pain. What a pain.
Anyways, so closing those out. And then I guess our current thing as well is we're just getting ready for our second KeysCon event here in Palm Springs. It's going to be that second weekend of June, which I'm super excited for. But yeah, it's going to be hot down there in the desert. We have a sick house with a super nice pool that we're going to be bringing, 12 scale members out to. We're going to be doing a 2-day masterclass, a deep dive into their business. We have
just teach them how to scale. Everything we talk about, they get in like 2 days, and it's just going to be, it's always an amazing event. I love this thing.
I'm really excited for it. So we got a, guest speaker coming down this time as well, who's going to be leading some of the stuff specifically around sales, which I think is going to be awesome. And we also have a handful of different, like, I would say, changes that we've made from the first one just to make it even better. And as we continue to do these for our members, we'll just continue to optimize it. And it's funny, I've come to find that like the first event that we did last one was like one of my highlights of last year. And I had a lot of like cool stuff last year, but I thought it was so fun. And I'm excited to be able to do more of these things. And it's funny. And I can see why, like, I don't know, like as a guru sort of type people get really into doing these kind of events, because it is like a really good time. Like, honestly. Yeah.
It's a good time. Like, I don't know. I think you and I both also appreciate like a curated experience. So like, we like doing that for other people. We've had it done for us when we go to events, but also getting to see the impact of being around a group of entrepreneurs, very like-minded, all investing in your success just as much as you are in your own success. It's like they own you, like they own where you're going with your business, because we're a virtual group, right? And we meet multiple times a week, but getting in, you can't get beyond the benefit of being in person and doing a deep dive where only you're focused on your business and those around you. And so that relationship and that network and that bond goes so far into the future. It's with them. It's so cool to see how people act, not just there, but how their businesses grow like the next 2 to 3 to 6 months, after that.
Yeah. Well, also too, I think one of the benefits we have, and I guess to toot our own horn a little bit, is that we've been to a lot of stuff like this where it's like a lot of like information, but not necessarily a lot of like actionable value. And so to put our own spin on it, we provide a lot of information, but then we have people taking the action at the event, like specifically. And so there's no way that they can just sit there for 2.5 days and take a bunch of notes and go home and do nothing, because we force them to do it at the event. And so they will get results whether they like it or not.
Totally.
So,
you will. You can't.
So anyways, if you're interested in optimizing the marketing like we talked about, or figuring out how to do wraps and stuff correctly, or want to come to an event like KeysCon, just go to collectingkeys.com/scale and check out our scale community and see if you're a good fit.
Absolutely.
All right. Besides that, guys, we appreciate you guys listening. Please share the show with anyone else who might find it interesting, or you can just send people to collectingkeys.com/scale as well if you think that they would be a good fit for the community. And a little note on that, if you have like a business partner, you have those sort of things, we welcome groups. We have a lot of people that have partners in there as well. So don't be afraid to apply as an entire company if you have a business partner that would be a part of it with you. So we appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.